Lincoln Center. Very few places in the city as synonymous with culture as Lincoln Center. Performing arts, opera, orchestra, ballet, Juilliard is here. Film at Lincoln Center. All sorts of arts, there's a library. But there's a new performing art that's crept into our culture they also have here. It's podcasts. So you got three main podcasts at Lincoln Center right now. It's the This is Lincoln Center podcast, which talks about everything going on there. The Art Class podcast, which is an irreverent look at art education. The Film at Lincoln Center podcast, which talks about film at Lincoln Center. That's the three. And then you've also got live events like the Hear It Here podcast festival, which is once a week. You can go and listen to a podcast, and the Speaking Soundly event already passed, but there's more things like that where you can go and listen to podcasts. The question now is, are podcasts art, and do they belong at Lincoln Center? Art is subjective, right? So let's go to Fordham Lincoln Center, wander in there through the halls, a place that I used to go to school, and you can find some student art. And you can take a really good look at what qualifies as art nowadays. And you come up with your own conclusions about whether or not these sorts of things qualify as art. Because it's up to you. Anything can be art in the eye of the beholder, right? I didn't go to Lincoln Center tonight to check out the wonderful art, and I do believe that it's art, by the way. I loved it all. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I went to check out the other facilitation of podcasts in our society at large these days, journalism, an industry that I am actively engaged in. Not many of you might know this, but I actually have a journalism podcast. Over the book, can you talk about what your role was a little bit?
Yeah, she would read things off to me and ask how it sounded and the like.
I have an episode with this man right here, Alan Sperber, who's handing a prize to this woman, Jane Ferguson. Jane Ferguson's the winner of the Sperber Prize in the year 2024.
All right, it's my honor to introduce Jane for her remarks.
The Sperber Book Prize honors the memory of Anne M. Sperber, author of the definitive biography of journalist Edward R. Murrow. Edward R. Murrow was one of the original broadcasters at CBS, specifically on the radio during World War II. You call CBS the place that I work, the house that Murrow built. And then I did this podcast about the Sperber Prize, which is inspired by Murrow, and then I worked there. So it all sort of came full circle.
To me, Murrow was an absolute innovator. He completely pushed the boundaries of broadcasting. He was pretty controversial, actually. When he went to London and he was covering the Blitz, he put a microphone on the top of the BBC building. Whenever they finally made him come down, he said, well, let me leave my equipment here so people can actually hear what this sounds like. So they don't just hear me telling them what's happening, but I'm showing them what's happening. All of this was something no one had ever really done before. No one had ever really invented this model of broadcasting. And so while we honor the traditions of our industry, I always remember Murrow as an extraordinary innovator. Also, one of the first to embrace television, which at the time was pretty controversial too, and his colleagues, of course, told him it'll never take off.
So what's the point to making all this? Why am I in journalism? Ultimately, I'm in journalism largely because of this man and what I learned about him while I was in school, and I really just found him a fascinating guy. The news adapted, and the news continues to adapt over time. And I think we're seeing that a lot right now with a lot of new ways to consume information and a lot more information out there. And podcasts is one form of that. So to complete another full circle, I need to have a podcast. And I've been hesitating to make one because I feel like I needed a niche. But I was talking to one of my former professors there, Fordham Frank, great man, and he gave me his business card for his new podcast. Being Frank, the Intelligent Conversation Podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The Intelligent Conversation Podcast. That's all it is. It's intelligent conversation. So I'd like to aspire to do something similar to Frank. And I don't know if my conversations will be as intelligent because I'm not as old, I'm not as knowledgeable, but they will be conversations. And that's the crux of Kevin Talks to People. Conversations. So now is when we get back into the question I think I've had all along. Is this podcast journalism or is it art and artistic performance? And I think we'll only be able to tell with time based off the conversations that I'm having and the details that are being revealed. So we'll see. To wrap this up, I'm going to give you a few Murrow quotes because I really like his quotes. They have to do a lot with journalism. Just because your voice reaches halfway around the world doesn't mean you're wiser than when it reached only to the end of the bar. That one's pretty good. It means like, even though you can project your information now, it doesn't mean it's good or important. And I think a lot of people could learn from that lesson. A nation of sheep will beget a government of wolves. See how that one shakes out? Everyone is a prisoner of his own experiences. No one can eliminate prejudices, just recognize them. It's a good one. Last one. The obscure we see eventually. The completely obvious, it seems, takes longer. So maybe you gotta look at what's right in front of your eyes. Or maybe you'll never notice. All right, let's keep this going another week. I'm up against the deadline here, so goodbye.